I got a request to do this 8 values quiz, which tells you what your political values are. And here's what the test is based on. What is 8 values? 8 value is, in essence, a political quiz that attempts to assign percentages for 8 different political values. And check this out. So you have economic, it's equality versus markets. You have 4 different categories: economic, diplomatic, civil, and societal. I think, in a way, some of these are false dichotomies, like nation versus world. Liberty versus authority seems about right, but equality versus markets. Equality of what? Because equality before the law is essential and mandatory. But things like equality of income, equality of your size of house, equality of how much money you make, despite what you do for a living, being arbitrated by the government. That's where it gets to. That's where it crosses the line. And then you have societal tradition versus progress. Like, what does that mean? Like, are tradition and progress at odds with each other? Why not individualism versus collectivism? How come that can't be a category? But it explains it down here. What are the 8 values? There are 4 independent axes: economic, diplomatic, state, and society, and each has 2 opposing values assigned to them. They are equality, when talking about economics. Equality. Those with higher equality scores believe the economy should distribute value evenly among the populace. They tend to support progressive tax codes, social programs, and at high values, socialism. And yes, this is completely wrong. Markets, economic. Those with higher market scores believe the economy should be focused on rapid growth. This is incorrect. Now, it is true that rapid economic growth, is a consequence of laissez-faire capitalism, but the justification for this is freedom. It is the proper role of government, which is to protect individual rights and property rights, because that's what is moral. That's the role of government. In a political sense, freedom means freedom from physical coercion. But again, the economic stuff, the economic benefits are a consequence of when you leave men alone to pursue reason and values and happiness. They tend to support lower taxes, privatization, deregulation, and at high values, laissez-faire capitalism. When it comes to the diplomatic axis, you have the nation. Those with higher nation scores are patriotic and nationalist. So already we have this bad dichotomy. I guess if you side on the nation side, it means you're a nationalist. They often believe in an aggressive foreign policy, valuing military strength, sovereignty, and at high values, territorial expansion. Again, this is not true. I think it's great to have a strong military and sovereignty, but aggressive foreign policy, aggressive how? Aggressive against our enemies who are waging war against us? I say hell yes. But aggressive foreign policy in terms of expansion and intervening in other countries and colonialism or imperialism, not colonialism, imperialism. No, America should not be trying to impose its will on the rest of the world. But when it's acting in self-defense, hell yeah, get aggressive. And yes, I believe in a strong military and sovereignty. And on the other end of the diplomatic axis, we have globe. Those with higher globe scores are cosmopolitan and globalist. So you're either a nationalist or a globalist when it comes to diplomacy. They often believe in a peaceful foreign policy, emphasizing diplomacy, cooperation, integrations, and at high values world government. And I especially get off the boat at the end, but I am in favor of trade deals and international trade. And I'm for diplomacy and cooperation as if those are resorts we can utilize to avoid war, to avoid all-out war, but sometimes that's just not an option, unfortunately. Then we have the state axis. We have liberty, and people with high liberty scores believe in strong civil liberties. They tend to support democracy and oppose state intervention in personal lives. Note that this refers to civil liberties, not economic liberties. And as I've said before, this is a false dichotomy that needs to be done away with. Economic liberties are civil liberties. How can you enjoy your civil life, your personal life, whether if it comes to, drinking a beer, dating someone of the same sex, having premarital sex, dating? How can you enjoy your social life if you don't have money, and if other people are not allowed to pursue values by selling you goods and services that you can enjoy in your personal life outside of work? But on the other side of this axis, we have authority. Those with higher authority scores believe in strong state power. They tend to support state intervention in personal lives, government surveillance, and at high values, censorship or autocracy. And then the fourth axis, we have the society axis. Again, tradition and progress. I don't know why these are two opposites. Those with tradition scores believe in strong traditional values and strict adherence to a moral code. Though not always, they are usually religious and support status quo or status quo anti-progress. Those with higher progress scores believe in social change and rationality. Oh, so apparently it's rational to use the government's gun to impose progress. Though not always, they are usually secular or atheist and support environmental action and scientific or technological research. Because again, it's so reasonable to steal money from people for the sake of research. Now, if you're someone like me and you know what you stand for and you have confidence in your view of the world, then a test like this is completely useless. If anything, it's annoying because, as you'll see, a lot of the questions in this quiz are flawed and have bad premises. However, I think a quiz like this could potentially provide a value to people who don't really think much about politics that much. They might vote in an election every 4 years. And a quiz like this could potentially, when people come across some of these questions, because some of the questions are valid, someone might come along one of the questions and think, I really don't know where I stand on this. Maybe I should put more thought into this. Maybe I should read into it more. Maybe I should think about it more. And maybe a test like this could be a tool, maybe perhaps even a wake-up call, for lack of better terms, for people who might want to explore more and think more about their premises and think, how do I think about this the right way? Am I coming at this question the right way? Maybe I should look at pros and cons of this question and how I feel about it. But I think for the most part, people use stupid quizzes like this to show to everyone on social media, hey guys, it looks like I'm a libertarian, or I'm a democratic socialist according to this quiz. And if anything, I think more people are more likely to take the results of a quiz like this and come to the conclusion that, hey, I'm a neocon, I'm a nationalist, I'm a socialist, I'm a communist, and they're more likely to just double down on that because some stupid fucking internet quiz told them what they think. So people are more likely to take results from quizzes like this just so that they can tell their friends, yeah, well, I'm a libertarian, I'm a nationalist, I'm a socialist, and then that's how they base their political decisions on, which is ridiculous. And we're already off to a wonderful start. Oppression by corporations is more of a concern than oppression by governments. Corporations cannot be oppressive. If a corporation doesn't like what you're doing, whether you're a customer or an employee or just a private citizen, their only means of dealing with you is by not dealing with you at all. A corporation, they cannot hire mercenaries or military to wage war against you. A corporation cannot blow up your house. A corporation cannot send authorities after you to haul you off to prison and lock you in a cage. So the obvious answer here is strongly disagree, but even then, it plays into this false notion that a corporation can be oppressive when they cannot. It is necessary for the government to intervene in the economy to protect consumers. So this is a tough question because, yes, government does have a role in protecting consumers from things like fraud and theft and dishonest actors in the marketplace, but often government intervention entails things like a welfare state or things like net neutrality, improper regulations where it goes way too far. So I don't know what the fuck they mean by intervene in this question. It is better to maintain a balanced budget than to ensure welfare for all citizens. Again, this is somewhat of a false dichotomy. There is a reasonable case against the welfare state in that it's wrong for the government to take money from some people and give it to other people, especially if those people are not producing values and being productive to earn that money. But it's not about balancing a budget. That's not the reason against the welfare state. Also, what kind of welfare do they mean? Do they just mean, a little bit of a social safety net and some roads here and there? Or do they mean guaranteed time off from work? Do they mean guaranteed health care for everyone? Guaranteed education for everyone? Guaranteed internet access for everyone? A guaranteed house for everyone? A guaranteed job for everyone? This question also assumes that welfare is totally fine so long as the budget is balanced, which is the incorrect way of thinking about things. From each according to his ability to each according to his needs. What a bunch of communist nonsense. But again, I kind of like that they have a question like this in the quiz because it might force people to really think about whether or not this is a good idea. Inheritance is a legitimate form of wealth. What the fuck kind of question is this? So you're telling me if someone earns millions or billions of dollars throughout their life and they use it to buy big houses and a bunch of cars, that once they die, that wealth just magically poof disappears? Of course it's a legitimate form of wealth. Even if the wealth got confiscated by the state 100%, it would still exist. It still had to be created by the guy who created it. Even if the guy or gal who creates the wealth, say they just give it all away to charity instead of giving it to their kids because they don't think their kids are worthy enough of inheritance, it's still a legitimate form of wealth. I honestly don't understand how anyone could think otherwise. Excessive government intervention is a threat to the economy. Not only to the economy, but freedom and way of life. When the government improperly intervenes in the economy, it sends distortions throughout the economy. And when the economy is distorted, eventually you're going to have bubbles and booms and busts and crashes. So absolutely right, strongly agree. Those with a greater ability to pay should receive better healthcare. Well, to me, it's whatever the market demands. If a doctor wants to provide their services free of charge or at a low cost, like Patch Adams, I believe, they have every right to do so. I'm not going to stop them. But yeah, that's a consequence of freedom and free markets. When you have more money to spend, when you have more money, you're going to be able to afford better services and better goods. You're going to be able to afford to buy nicer seats at a baseball game. You're going to be able to afford to buy nicer cars, nicer vacations, bigger houses, and better healthcare. So absolutely. Quality education is a right of all people. So let's take this premise to its logical conclusion. Having quality education means you have a right to information. So if we take this to its extreme logical conclusion, you should be able to go to any Barnes & Noble, any bookstore, and take whatever books you want off the shelf without paying for it because, after all, you have a right to an education. So, no, absolutely not. Rights, in the American sense, means you have a right to action, a right to live your life as you see fit, without anyone getting in your way, without anyone physically stopping you from pursuing your values and your happiness. Rights do not mean a right to things or right to goods and services like hospital beds or trips to Disneyland or cars or food or housing, because in order for the government to provide you with these things, they have to violate the rights of other people. and that would mean that there would be no freedom or liberty in the country, because your right to your happiness has to take a back seat to other people's needs. The means of production should belong to the workers who use them. Again, more communist nonsense. By this logic, if I own an office and I hire someone to be a secretary and I provide them with phones and a computer to do work for me, by this logic, when they leave the company, they should be able to take the computer and phones and desk and whatever else I provided them to do work for me, they should be able to take that all with them. And if that sounds ridiculous, it's because it is ridiculous. Absolutely not. I support regional unions, such as the European Union. Yeah, if the European Union is making trade more efficient through various countries, then yes, the European Union is good. But as we all know, the European Union has overstepped its authority and has been doing shit that it should not be doing. Military spending is a waste of money. Now, I'm sure the military spends more money than it should and spends a lot of money on things it should not be spending money on. At the same time, I love having a big, strong military that can take on the next 5 or 10 or whatever, however many countries combined. Research should be conducted on an international scale. A lot of questions dealing with research. Well, again, the vagueness. What exactly is being researched and for what purpose? Especially when it comes to government research. Is the government researching potential enemies to the United States? Government should be accountable to the international community. What the fuck is the international community? Is it every country in the world, including North Korea and Saudi Arabia and a bunch of other despotic, authoritarian third world hellholes? What, we got to be accountable to these dictators and authoritarian scum? Absolutely not. Even when protesting an authoritarian government, violence is not acceptable. Well, tell that to the founding fathers. It is important that the government follows the majority opinion, even if it's wrong. I think this is actually a pretty good question. It might get people to think about whether or not democracy is a good ideal, because sometimes the majority might make the wrong decision, the majority might be wrong, and it could have disastrous consequences. Society was better many years ago than it is now. Again, I don't know what this means. I don't know if this only applies to the United States. And how does this even apply to politics? I'm sure in some ways society was better in the past, but in a lot of ways society was worse. So I don't know what this means or what the fuck it has to do with politics. Again, these vague questions really, I don't feel confident in answering a lot of these questions because they're way too fucking vague. Reason is more important than maintaining our culture. Again, this is somewhat of a false economy. Why can't you have a culture that's predicated on reason? This question really confuses me. Gun ownership should be prohibited for those without a valid reason. To who without a valid reason? Anyone? You can just prohibit anyone from gun ownership without any valid reason at all? It is important that we further my group's goals above all others. Well, which groups? Which group are you part of? Are you part of a socioeconomic class, a racial group, a religious group, a group based on gender, based on sexual orientation? It's like 6 different groups that you can be a part of, and what the fuck are your goals? Is that what politics is all about? It's just about my group versus your group and this group versus that group? Again, the smallest minority on earth is the individual, and you cannot support minority rights without supporting individual rights. And let's look at my results. Hey, look at this, guys. I'm like 16% socialist over here. Man, I was way more socialist than I thought. So apparently I'm capitalist overall. I'm capitalist, I'm patriotic, I'm liberal, and I'm neutral when it comes to society. So my closest match, according to this quiz, I am a neoliberal. I guess that makes me, does that make me a libtard? Can someone clarify that for me. So there you go. According to the 8 Values quiz, I am a neo-libtard.